I used to believe I was a good person. Not exceptional, not heroic, just good enough, dependable, the kind of person you can count on. If you had asked me whether I loved my family, my wife, my children, the people closest to me, I wouldn't have paused for even a second. Of course I love them. I always have. That part felt obvious, almost insulting. I showed up, worked hard, and kept everything from falling apart. I believed that was love. What I didn't realize was how much I was holding back. For years I carried simple, honest words I never said out loud, convincing myself that feeling them was enough. I'm proud of you. I need you. You matter more to me than I know how to explain. I carried those words around quietly, like something fragile I might drop if I touched it too often. I told myself I didn't need to say them because I felt them. I assumed that people could tell, that love was something you radiated automatically if it was real enough. I believed actions spoke louder, and words were optional decoration. That belief didn't come from nowhere. I grew up in a house where emotions were treated like unnecessary noise. Nobody forbade them outright. They just weren't encouraged. My father wasn't cold in the way people imagine coldness. He was practical. He worked long hours, fixed things, and provided. To him, that was love. Love sounded like boots on the floor after a long day, smelled of sweat and cold air. It was food on the table, bills paid on time. No one talked about feelings, and no one expected to. My father didn't know how to respond. He wasn't cruel. He was uncomfortable. So instead of comfort, he gave instruction. Instead of reassurance, he gave preparation. He thought he was making me stronger, and maybe in some ways he did. But he also taught me that softness was something you handled alone. I carried that lesson into adulthood without questioning it. I learned to be useful instead of expressive, reliable instead of open. I learned that if I stayed busy, fixing, solving, providing, I wouldn't have to risk saying the wrong thing. I wouldn't have to stand there exposed, hoping someone understood what I meant. When my wife looked at me and waited for a compliment, I noticed the loose hinge on the door. When she wanted closeness, I checked the oil in her car. I thought I was showing love by making her life easier, smoother, safer. And part of me genuinely believed that should be enough. But I also saw the disappointment flicker across her face sometimes. I just didn't know what to do with it, so I pretended not to see it. When my children came to me with their achievements, I nodded. I gave advice. I pointed out what they could do better next time. I told myself praise would make them complacent, that restraint was a form of discipline, that I was preparing them for a world that wouldn't clap for them. What I didn't realize was that I was also teaching them not to come to me with their feelings. I was teaching them that approval was conditional and affection was quiet. There were moments, small ones, ordinary ones, where I almost said it. Late at night, sitting at the kitchen table, long drives where nobody spoke, hugs that lasted just a bit too long. The words would rise up, right to the surface, and every time I swallowed them back. Later, I told myself, there would be a better moment. Later became a habit, then a promise I never questioned. It felt endless. It wasn't. My wife died 3 years ago. In the hospital, near the end, I finally broke. I said everything I had been saving, all of it. The love, gratitude, the fear, the apologies. I said it desperately, like if I stopped talking it would all disappear. I cried in a way I never had before, holding her hand and telling her how much she meant to me. She wasn't awake. I don't know how much she heard. I don't know if she heard anything at all. That uncertainty sits with me now. It follows me through quiet rooms. It shows up when the house feels too empty. Our children are grown. They're doing well. They're responsible, capable, independent. They call. We talk. The conversations are polite, efficient, functional. They don't tell me when they're scared. They don't tell me when they're falling apart. And if I'm honest, that distance didn't appear on its own. It looks a lot like the space I kept between us for years. I thought I was being strong. I thought I was being steady. I didn't realize that strength without tenderness feels like indifference to the people around you. I didn't understand that being relied on isn't the same as being known. Here's what I learned too late. Love doesn't exist just because you feel it. It has to move, to cross the space between people. If it never shows up in words, touch, or vulnerability, the person you love may never feel it at all. Silent love feels exactly like no love. Used to believe there would always be another chance, another call, another holiday, another conversation where I could finally say the important things. I believed time was patient. It isn't. So if you're reading this, and there's someone in your life you care about but rarely tell, hear me. Don't wait. Don't polish it. Don't make it perfect. Say it awkwardly. Say it badly. Say it while your voice shakes and your pride complains. Give people the words while they're still alive to hear them. Don't save your love for a moment when it's too late to matter. I did, and I would give anything to have one ordinary, uncomfortable moment back, just to say it sooner. I don't. Say this to make myself a victim. I made choices, repeated ones. Silence wasn't something that happened to me. It was something I practiced every day because it felt familiar and safer than risking rejection or looking foolish. What nobody tells you is that silence doesn't stay neutral. It doesn't just sit there politely, waiting. It shapes people. It teaches them how to treat you. It teaches them what not to expect. Over time, I noticed that people stopped asking me certain questions. They stopped coming to me with certain things, not out of spite, out of adaptation. They learned the rules of the room I created. Keep it light. Keep it practical. Don't linger too long. Don't ask for what won't be given. And the cruelest part is that I mistook that distance for respect. I told myself they didn't need reassurance anymore, that they were strong, that they were fine. I confused independence with emotional self-sufficiency. I didn't see that they weren't becoming stronger. They were just becoming quieter around me. There were moments I felt the loneliness before I could name it, sitting at the table, everyone present yet distant, listening to conversations that never went deeper, feeling included but never fully invited in. I blamed time, stress, age. I never thought to blame myself. I used to think vulnerability was something you earned after safety was guaranteed, that you opened up only when you were sure the ground wouldn't give way beneath you. What I understand now is that vulnerability is how safety is built in the first place. You don't wait for it. You create it. By the time I realized that, I had already taught everyone around me to stop waiting. If I could go back, I wouldn't give a speech. I wouldn't try to explain everything at once. I'd start smaller. I'd start clumsier. I'd say things in the middle of ordinary days, not at the edge of loss. I'd say, that meant a lot to me. I'd say, I don't always know how to say this, but I care. I'd say, I'm proud of you, without adding conditions or corrections. I thought love had to be strong and silent to be real. I see now that love left unspoken is just fear in respectable clothes. And fear, no matter how well-intentioned, always takes more than it gives. So if any part of this feels uncomfortably familiar, don't turn away from it. That discomfort isn't accusation, it's an invitation. One you don't have to accept perfectly, just honestly. You don't need to become a different person overnight. You don't need eloquence. You don't need a perfect moment. You just need to open your mouth before silence teaches the people you love how to live without you. And please subscribe to the channel. It would really help me out.